What's up, Harry Potter fans? We're the Hills Maniacs, and today we're going to bring you our questions we had after watching Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. So I guess the first main question we have to ask is, what was this whole election thing for?
I know, yeah, that didn't make any sense. Because
the guy that was hosting the election was the German Minister for Magic. We know there's a British Minister for Magic. There's an American Minister for Magic. So it's not like Grindelwald was becoming a Minister of Magic. Yeah, so, is he, the leader of the Ministry of Magic?
Because they literally say, we're going to vote for the person who will lead our wizarding world.
So is there all of a sudden a wizard king?
The wizard president.
Is he the wizard king now of all of the wizarding world?
That seemed to make no sense. What are they in control of if they are the king or the
And
king
what's
of
the point of having
world?
the different ministries of magic if you just have this one guy that says everything that happens anyway?
Because we don't hear about that in any other Harry Potter movie, that there's somebody above the Ministry of Magic.
Right. That's never brought up before. We just know about the ministry and the Minister of Magic being the head of the overall Ministry of Magic, and he makes the final decisions for that region that he runs as Minister of Magic. So what was this whole election for?
I know because that was the main plot of this whole movie, was that Grindelwald was trying to basically gain control of the wizarding world, and he had to go through all this other convoluted stuff to get there, and it kind of just didn't make any sense to me. Especially
it really didn't.
Thinking about the broader Harry Potter universe, this kind of thing never comes up before. So I don't understand what exactly this was, and why they chose to put this in the movie. And they could have had Grindelwald doing anything, trying to get a hold of something, or
trying to take over the British Ministry of Magic.
Yeah.
I
don't know why it had to be the wizarding world, which is words they used a lot.
And my question is, what made it? Because obviously, this guy the German Minister of Magic, I forget what his name was, that was hosting this election, obviously was the person in this role right now.
Right.
And this would be his successor to the throne, if you will. So, what made the German Ministry of Magic so important compared to the British Ministry of Magic that their minister was able to be the head of the overall magic community? You know what I mean? Yeah. And if he was elected for that, then shouldn't he have resigned as German Minister of Magic if it's a different position? And if it's not a different position, then you basically just had to be elected German Minister of Magic to be able to run the entire magical world?
Yeah, I don't know. That made no sense.
I mean,
I'm not a huge Harry Potter fan anyways. He knows a lot more than I do about it, but even that, to me, just didn't... Even I was questioning, what are they in control of then?
Yeah.
Because, do they control the Ministry of Magic? Do they control...
Apparently they do.
Yeah, I don't know. That was a weird plot device that they used in this movie.
Yeah. And on the note of the election, they introduced this new creature in this movie, which I thought was a great idea, and it's called a Qilin. I guess it's spelled Quillin, I think, or LN or LIN or something. I don't know.
He was just.
It starts with a Q, I know that, but it's pronounced Qilin. And apparently, these are these really rare creatures in this universe that they can detect when somebody is pure of heart, and that's why they're so rare. And I guess it kind of plays off of that, because being truly pure is a rare quality in somebody. So maybe that's why the Qilin is so rare, because they used it to determine who the new elected official should be, which again didn't make any sense, because the whole point of the German Minister of Magic letting Grindelwald run for this position was to let the people vote. And then if they didn't vote, then he can't complain that he was being cheated out of it because the people didn't vote for him. But the people didn't vote anyways.
This whole movie made
because
the
Qilin chose who was in charge. So But anyway, so Grindelwald, they killed the one Qilin and then brought it back to life using dark magic, so that it would bow to him, so that people would think that his intentions were pure, not knowing that Newt had another Qilin, because there were two born to the same mother,
essentially.
And in the end, they released the actual Qilin that was still alive, and we're gonna let it choose who should be the elected official. And what made me confused was that it went straight to Dumbledore. At this point in time, knowing what we know about Dumbledore, he is not pure of heart. No matter what you want to believe about the guy. You know, I mean, he had a fight with his brother and Grindelwald that resulted in the death of his sister. Even his intentions weren't to prevent Grindelwald from taking over just because he didn't want Grindelwald to be in power. He prevented him from taking over because he felt that, I guess, that he should be the one in charge. But there's nothing about Dumbledore that should suggest that the Qilin should bow to Dumbledore.
Right, and Dumbledore even acknowledges this. Like, he even tells them he tells the Qilin, like, no, you can't choose me. There's got to be somebody else here that's more pure.
And it walks right past Newt, and it walks past Jacob.
Who is really
literally the whole movie was built up about Jacob being this pure person.
You could argue that maybe the Qilin, like, only chooses pure magical people.
True.
But, like, I
mean, that makes sense for him skipping over Jacob. But again, Newt is also in that same category.
He's
like Newt is probably one of the purest people in Fantastic Beasts that is magical. You know, he does everything to make sure his creatures are okay. He does everything to make sure the people around him are safe. You know, he's put himself in situations before that, you know, could have gotten him killed, but he was okay with it as long as it helped the overall, you know, community. So I don't know why you would walk past Newt. So I guess the next question is, a lot of stuff was left out of this that was introduced in the last movie. The Crimes of Grindelwald. And one of those big things was they had the introduction of Nagini, who from the Harry Potter franchise we know is Voldemort's pet snake, who is actually a Maledictus, which is a blood curse that, you know, people transform into animals and can't change back. It's not like an Animagus who can willingly switch back and forth between the two. And they introduced her, and she kind of fell in love with Credence, and they had this whole storyline going where she joined Grindelwald basically because she was with Credence. And she's nowhere to be seen in this movie.
Yeah, like where did she go?
We know she didn't die. I mean, she could have been transformed into a snake at this point. So I guess they could have just, like, let her go off into the wild and things happen, you know, and she's
I was wondering, because
but they never even mentioned it.
Yeah.
You know? And so it was just one of those things that, like, how do you introduce a character that ends up playing a major role in the Harry Potter franchise later on, being one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, you know, and literally containing a part of Voldemort's soul, and you introduce that character and make it a big deal and then just not carry out anything with it.
Unless she was in it and they had some other actress playing her and they just never acknowledged that that's Nagini, because there were a couple other people why
wouldn't you have made, like, if you have the power to have a snake lady on your team with literally venom inside her, why would you not send her to attack people?
Right.
Like, if you wanted to kill Newt, just, here's Nagini, go kill her. Like,
well, he knows how to control creatures.
Yeah, okay, maybe not Newt, but still somebody else that might not have a vial of snake venom on them at all times, you know? And
I don't know.
On the note of people introduced in Crimes of Grindelwald that weren't in this movie, not that it's that big of a deal, but where was Nicholas Flamel, who played a big part in the final battle in Crimes of Grindelwald? You know, Dumbledore sent them to Nicholas Flamel because he was a friend of Dumbledore's, and he had the Sorcerer's Stone, you know, which obviously plays a big role later on. And this was the first time we saw him actually on screen, and he actually helped control the spell that Grindelwald let out at the end of Crimes of Grindelwald that was gonna like turn everything dark or whatever. And so he kind of played a big role in that, and he just again wasn't here. I mean, I guess he is older, and maybe they didn't need his help, but they still could have at least mentioned Nicholas Flamel at some point. But he doesn't even get brought up. And then I had mentioned earlier, like, people that joined Grindelwald, and Eustace, who was the brother of Leta Lestrange, or the half-brother or whatever, however that worked. They explained this whole family tree thing in Crimes of Grindelwald, so I'm not going to go into that. He ends up joining Grindelwald literally for the second part of the movie, and it has no payoff whatsoever. Because he ends up coming back to the place where this election is, killing Grindelwald's people, and rejoining with Newt.
Well, I think that was part of their plan, was to get him to kind of infiltrate Grindelwald.
Yeah, but why? He didn't do anything.
And Grindelwald even helped to, like, he erased his memory of his sister dying or whatever, or that his sister ever existed, so he wouldn't feel the pain anymore. Like, yeah, that. But
what did that do? Unless his mission was to bring Queenie back to the good side, but they didn't say that.
Yeah, because we didn't even.
Because he just like showed up, killed Grindelwald's people, and then it was like, oh, battle's over. Okay,
we're with these people.
Let's just go back home.
With them now. Yeah, like, it was just strange.
It was one of those things that, like, why did you have to add this in? As a thing. And then I guess the most unimportant thing that happened was the capture of Theseus.
No.
In this movie. Literally no payoff for this thing whatsoever. Theseus is Newt's brother, who works for the English Ministry of Magic. He's the head of the Auror department. And he gets captured by Grindelwald's people. Newt has to go rescue him in this
think that would be
random
a big
prison that was supposed to be abandoned, but isn't, which obviously Grindelwald controls. Protected by this random scorpion thing, and Newt had to go rescue him, and there was this tie involved, and it was supposed to be like a port key thing that brought them back to Hogwarts, but that would mean that Dumbledore had to know that Theseus would get captured and end up in this prison, and that the guard would then hold this tie so that Newt could use it.
This was a whole wasted scene. I mean, yeah, it was, I guess, a comedy scene.
Given them a port key to transport them to Hogwarts?
Yeah, because it was like immediately they rescued Theseus too, like Newt went in and rescued him. So it's not like that was all the big stakes of the movie. Is that like, oh, Grindelwald captured Theseus? So it's like you think that would have been bigger stakes, but it wasn't. It was just kind of like, okay, I saved him. Yeah. It was just this weird thing. I guess it was just meant to be a funny moment where, like...
I mean, I understand that, but, like, this whole thing with the tie, they made it into a big deal because Dumbledore gave this tie to Theseus, meaning that Dumbledore probably made this a port key at one point.
Yes.
So that they could get out. Then it brings up the question, did Dumbledore know that, or was he expecting Theseus to get captured? Was that part of the plan?
That was a whole wasted scene.
And it was like 20 minutes of the movie.
This movie could have been like an hour long if they had taken out some of these random scenes.
Like that, I guess the point was to show that it doesn't matter if you're a ministry official, you have no power. And then Newt had to basically quit doing what he was supposed to do to go rescue his brother. I guess that makes sense. But what was with the port key thing? I don't...
Like, maybe... what this should have been, maybe, was that, like, Grindelwald captured him to use his influence to get people to vote for him, or whatever.
Or using people...
Something like that.
From the British Ministry of Magic to do something. And I mean, the whole thing was that the German minister, who was apparently king of all the wizards, it said that Grindelwald was freed of all charges in his things that he was accused of in Crimes of Grindelwald, which would mean that the British Ministry of Magic and the American Ministry of Magic all had to just let him go and just be like, all right, fine, Grindelwald's just that large and we can't do nothing about it,
Right.
And I guess that could play into it, but they did nothing with it. And speaking of making no sense, Dumbledore sent Bunty to a Muggle, like, luggage maker who makes cases and boxes and stuff, to make 6 copies of this case. There is literally a spell where you can multiply things. And we see it in one of the cases. When they open it up, these pastries start multiplying all over the place.
Yeah. I don't know what the
What's the point of going to the Muggle, dude, when you have a thing that can multiply stuff?
You're a wizard.
Like, you're literally a wizard. You're the greatest wizard of all time. And on that note, she asks the guy to make 6 copies. She says a half dozen copies of this case. When they get there, and they all choose a random case, there's 5 cases, one of which is Newt's, which means there are 4 copy cases.
So
what happened to the other 2?
Where's the other 2? Yeah.
And then Bunty shows up at the end, and she's like, not everybody could know everything, and then she has the case that has the chillin' in it, which is Newt's actual case. So either Newt's case was never there to begin with, and she brought it from somewhere else, or she just happened to have Newt's case from the start that had the chillin' was transported to. I don't know. This whole thing,
the whole movie
it didn't make any sense. And I guess you could try to play it off like Grindelwald would have expected Dumbledore to use this spell to duplicate this, so he got, because apparently Grindelwald can see the future. That's a new thing. I mean, that was introduced in kind of the last one too, with the World Wars and stuff, and he said this is how the Muggle world will end, but whatever. Apparently Grindelwald can see the future, so it could have been played off like he might know, and you know, he knows Dumbledore well.
Or maybe
obviously.
That multiplying spell wears off eventually.
Or he was just, or he was taking precaution, because if it was like, if Grindelwald did expect that and he knew a spell to counter it, take it back down, you know which one the chillin' is in, you know. Whereas like if you have 5 Muggle-made artifacts, you're not gonna be able to do that because they're not multiple. I don't know.
But let us know what you guys think down in the comments. If you have actual answers to these things, or if you think you have any theories about these specific questions or topics that we covered in this video, let us know that down in the comments section. Also, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more.
Thanks for watching this video. Remember, leave the scumbaggery at home, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Subscribe.